This is one of the worst game plans I've ever seen. They look like St. Ignatius playing Miami Dolphins. This is Olentangy and down in Columbus. This is trash, bro. I'm asking people out there all around the world. If you like Joe Woods, just say you like him. Maybe you think you might get to go to the cookout. Maybe you might see, it's a lot of cats out here, McNuggets. Maybe they think they might get invited one day. The Browns gonna bring them on as a consultant. I'm from the hood. I ain't never trying to go be no consultant. I'm gonna wear my barbershop hats. I'm gonna put this little camera on, and I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. The Browns are terrible. They are no better than they were X amount of years ago. You tell me what you see about the Cleveland Browns that's different from any regime. It isn't, it's the same. It's just different people.
I do hate when the Browns lose, but I found a silver lining in a Browns loss.
Well, his rants.
My man goes off. It is worth watching.
His rants.
I'll be hurt.
G. Bush takes this shit. He takes it as hard as I used to.
Yeah.
Man,
But you'll get over it, bro. When you get someday you'll be
hurts.
all scar tissue, and the stuff will just bounce off you. And Sunday at 4:05, you're like, okay, what's next?
What's for dinner?
What's for dinner?
I got to do two different rants. It's so bad now. It's so bad that I got to do two rants. I finished that one.
Yeah, now you got 2 more hours of it.
And then go right back into another live on my own live stream.
Oh, man.
Just to get it all out. And then I go right to sleep.
And then you wake up and you come right in here for 2 hours.
And then I wake up in here and come in here and talk about
Welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, also known as the funeral of the 2022 Cleveland Browns.
Ooh.
It's over.
They're done.
It is over. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to defy anybody to prove me wrong today. At 3-6, it is over. And we're going to talk about the Browns' disappointing loss. The one silver lining in this season had been 4 of those losses were by 3 points or less.
Yeah.
They were very close. But you had the Patriots, you had the Dolphins, and the defense can't stop anything. And we've got 2 hours to break it all down. Adam the Bull joining us from home. Bull, am I wrong at 3-6 that this is the funeral for the Browns? Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I can't tell you you're wrong. I wish I could. And it's not even the record to me, Jay. It's just that, there's no way to believe that this team could play any kind of consistent football. It's like it's not impossible to go 7-1 or maybe 6-2, but it is impossible for this team because they've shown no ability to be consistent. And yesterday was the all-time low. Well, not the all-time, but it was the season low.
The season low.
Because coming off a bye to have that bad a performance, everybody's on the chopping block potentially this week.
Bull, not only coming off a bye, but guys, coming off the most impressive performance of the season. Yeah. I looked this up because I can't understand. I talked about on Friday the difference between this team's ceiling and floor. And Bull's point was, that's everybody in the NFL. The Browns lead the league in the gap between ceiling and floor, and they proved it again yesterday. Just for fun, I wanted to look this up. The Browns now, in their last 22 games under Kevin Stefanski, are 8-14. 8-14. Yeah. When you take the Bengals out of that equation,
they become 4-14.
They're 5-14.
Ooh.
So anybody not, and I don't know why they get up for Cincinnati. I don't know how they game plan so well for Cincinnati, but whatever the deal is, they do. And there's no denying that. And that's what's so frustrating. You can beat the team that's gone to the AFC Championship last season. You're 3-0 against them in their last 3 games. And when all the starters played, you kicked their ass both times. Yet against the rest of the NFL, they're 5-14. When you go outside of the division, Kevin Stefanski is 3-10 in his last 13 games. Guys, I think today is mostly about, we can hash over what the hell we just saw. But at this point, I think it's more macro to me. What is the biggest issue? Because there are issues everywhere you look. One bright spot yesterday I thought was special teams. I thought Ford looked great kicking on the kickoff returns. We made our kicks. We looked okay in that area. But other than that, I don't even know, guys. I don't know where we begin today. Because this is the funeral. Mathematically, they have a less than 5% chance of making the playoffs.
You guys want to see a stat real quick? And this
Show
is
us
a
what-
tough
show
stat
us
digest it comes from Jake Trotter of ESPN, but according to ESPN's FPI, we take tag word full. The Browns now have a 4.5% chance to make the playoffs and a 14% chance to have a top 5 draft pick, which then goes to the Houston Texans.
Which they won't have. The silver lining in sucking in the NFL is that you at least get to refurbish. Yeah. You get to pick at the top of the draft. Those days are gone. Yeah. Those days are gone. So you have no draft capital. Your entire franchise strategy is on a guy who hasn't played in 2 years, and we don't know what the hell he's going to look like. And by the way, I know he won't play defense.
So let me jump in here because I'm not here for the rants. I like G's rants, right? But I'm not.
I love G's rants.
I'm looking for something different now.
Concrete.
Right. Here, in sports, it's pretty basic, right? I look at a team that just came off a bye week, right? There's no excuse there's no excuse why you're not ready to play. And when you're not ready to play, let me tell you who that falls squarely on. The person running the show.
The head coach.
He don't have you ready to go, right? Now, inside of that, because he got to make sure that people are held accountable, right? We don't hold nobody accountable here, right? We got holes on this team that we elect not to fill, right? For whatever reason. We don't know why we don't fill them, right?
You're talking about the defensive middle.
Here. Mm-hmm. This team has talent. I see it. Delpit shows up. I mean, I see pieces and parts at times, right? The problem is the person leading the charge is not equipped to lead the charge. And I'm not one to just say change guys out, right? I've been around the business long enough. Either you have it to stick or you don't. And he might be the nicest. He don't have it. Stop playing with me, right? He doesn't have it. I know y'all might like him. He just don't. This ain't about who I like. It's about can you do the job?
Jason,
right?
let's pivot to you because you and I both, and I think a lot of folks have been of the mindset, you can't make any hasty decisions on Kevin Stefanski until we see what he can do with number 4.
Right.
We know what he can do without number 4. Baker Mayfield's not here to blame anymore.
Nope.
We said, and you really put him on blast when the season started, you said Kevin Stefanski is on the clock.
On the clock, bro.
Because all the problem, Odell's gone, Baker's gone, and this is emotional talk. We're all, that's what Clevelanders do. Fire the GM, fire the coach. If you looked on Twitter yesterday, Stefanski and Barry were trending in Ohio from 4 o'clock until right now. They're still trending 1 and 2. Everybody wants to fire the coach and the general manager. And maybe it's warranted. I don't know.
After he get done, come back to me.
You're the voice of reason here. Always have been. You're not going to bring emotion to this conversation like the three of us, and even Bull to some extent. Are we wrong? What do we do?
The numbers that you just are indefensible. 3 and 10.
Indefensible.
It's terrible. But here's what I'll say. You thought you were a quarterback away from winning the Super Bowl. That's why you made the move that you made. You thought you needed a quarterback, and that was it. That's why you went all in to get Deshaun. Now, obviously, defensively, you probably got a lot more problems than you thought you did. And I agree with defensive tackles are a disaster. It's not that they haven't addressed it. It's that they can't find the guys. They've tried to address it, and they keep missing. Is it a personnel? Is it a coaching thing? I don't know. Is it an inability to evaluate the position? But that's the micro.
I'm beginning to seriously question up the food chain, and not just Andrew Barry, DePodesta too. I'm beginning to seriously question, because really the restaurateur, the owner of the restaurant, and the real hierarchy is Haslam and Barry and DePodesta. Whatever the roles are, who the hell knows? They're not transparent enough, so we got to guess. The head chef is Kevin Stefanski. And you know how this works. Stefanski's going to try to put together the best meal he can. But if he's given crap ingredients, he's only going to be able to do so much with that. Now wait. Now I'm not defending Kevin Stefanski. However, I'm just going to tell you that the Bulls don't win all those championships without those filet mignon
Michael
ingredients.
And Scotty.
So you need those pieces. Now, I look at what Daboll. I look at Brad. I look at what Brian Daboll's doing in New York with a quarterback who was about a retread. Let's face it, he was where Baker Mayfield is right now. He's got that club in position to make the playoffs, and despite the fact that the Eagles are undefeated. My question to you is, are the ingredients proper?
But Dayball is doing exactly what Kevin did in 2020.
He is.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So
He
it's
is.
1 year. So let's come back in year 2 and year 3. Here's the thing. Here's the point. The big point I would make about Kevin.
Okay.
You went all in on a quarterback.
Yeah.
You thought you were quarterback away from winning the Super Bowl. You've yet to see what that looks like. And not only did you go all in on this quarterback, the biggest part of your pitch to the quarterback to convince him to come here, aside from the $230 million, the biggest part of your pitch was Kevin. Kevin sitting down with Deshaun and chopping up film for an hour, just the two of them, going over. This is how you did it in Houston. This is how I want to use you here. This is how it'll look. This is how we can do it. You have to give it the chance to see how that looks. And I don't just mean these 6 games. This whole season has been a disaster. I hate the word distraction. I think it's overused in the media. But it fits in this. From the day that trade was made through the entire training camp, this thing hung over this thing hung over. Guys, this hung over every single day. Yo, yes. You have to see. You have to see what this looks like with a full training. All right, well then you know what? Fire everybody, bring everyone else in you, and start all over again because that's worked so well for 20 years.
Listen, I knew I said it. This is what I said. I mean, you can rewind the tape. I said, y'all gonna come in here and you think you got time. I told you you can't punt on no season, and that's exactly what they did.
They punted on the season the day it went to 11 games.
No. Listen,
they did.
You, as a defensive coordinator, you don't get an opportunity to talk about Deshaun Watson. He has nothing to do with your job.
No, I don't think Joe Woods is back next year.
He should have been gone weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't think.
This is my point.
Is he back Sunday?
Weeks ago.
He probably would have been fired already if he's getting fired now.
I was on this in 2019.
But listen, you can't make change just to make change because that's how you wind up in this position.
Jay, hold on.
He's right.
Jason's not about making change to make change. Let me just tell you something.
That's what we do in Cleveland. We fire everybody every year or two. Yes, I have 20 years of proof. That's what they do.
Listen to me.
We thought we had it right this time.
I'm not talking about here. I'm talking about winning organizations, right? There's certain factors that go on winning organizations. I don't care where you go. One, they hold people accountable. Two, if you ain't got no fire at the helm, you ain't no good. And he don't give you no heat, no fire, no nothing, right? He might be great as the offensive coordinator because he don't have to have no heat.
You know what?
Did you see the special yesterday before the game on Tom Landry? And Starback talking about him?
Yeah.
He had some heat. Kept heat on him, right? So if you don't
guys, let me jump in here.
Hold on. Let me finish, Bull. Let me finish, Bull.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right? So if you don't have that accountability at the top of the ticket, now, you need talent. I think the Browns have some talent. The problem is you will emulate the top of the ticket. The ticket is dead on arrival. It's dead on arrival. Your numbers just bared it out, right? And I said, so stop telling me, right? And you talk about, well, how can you beat the Bengals? Because in all sports, some teams have the number on other teams, right? Ohio State number is held by Wisconsin. Wisconsin come in here and crack Ohio State for decades, right? Decades. So the Browns have the Bengals number.
And they play them twice a year.
And I said, the thing I will
I
will tell you this. If you think you're going somewhere with Kevin Stefanski, you are sadly mistaken. It's only going to get worse.
Guys, let me read you this tweet from our Jay, your colleague at WKYC, Ben Axelrod, because I think he sums up. Ben's a smart guy, and I've never actually met Ben in person.
Ben's a wonderful guy.
But
very smart.
He had this tweet today, and Jason and I have been the defenders of Kevin Stefanski, and so has Ben. But Ben made a great tweet. Let me read this to you. He says, "I still believe in Kevin Stefanski, and I'm definitely not writing him off until he has a starting caliber quarterback. That being said, this is the first week this season I don't have the energy to defend him. That being the performance coming off a bye is a tough look." And I agree with that.
I have defended
Kevin. I totally agree too.
Yeah. Jason, you and I have defended Kevin Stefanski. I can't defend him this week. Like, I personally wouldn't fire him. I understand what Brad's saying. I understand what G's saying. I think there is an argument that could be made that you could fire him. There's the tweet. I think, and with Jimmy Haslam, you never know. We don't know. Jimmy Haslam could fire Kevin Stefanski any day. I have no energy to defend him. I think down deep he can be the right coach. And maybe part of that is, think about this. If they're wrong, if Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry are the wrong guys, which they may be, then that means for a decade, Jimmy Haslam has gotten 0 hirings right. Not 1, not 2, but 0. If Stefanski and Berry are the wrong guys, so And that's not a reason not to fire somebody. But the reality is, if they're the wrong guys, then I have no reason to believe that Jimmy Haslam will get it right with whoever they hire this offseason.
And that's the key.
Because he's gotten every hire wrong.
Yeah.
He is ultimately the biggest problem.
And Bull,
so you can do about
that is the key. And that's why this morning, as I'm deciding which way I want to go on this, I'm so torn. Because there is one part of me that just based on the product that I'm looking at,
Right.
There's no fire. We've talked about that
None.
from week one.
None.
There is no
None.
pulse to this team. And by the way, please, for the love of God, stop carrying Kevin Stefanski's news conferences. I'm going to jump off a building if I have to hear him one more time say the same thing and say nothing at all. Number one. So I made this point earlier in the year, and I'm judging Stefanski in a bubble outside of the mess that he decided to come into.
Okay.
You remember the analogy that I used early this year, and I still believe it. I believe Kevin Stefanski is a good seed in toxic soil.
I 100% agree.
And so here's the proof to that. If you look at an organization, the soil is the foundation, the ownership and the front office. The seeds are the people you hire to do the football. Coaches, players. A tree grows. What fruit comes out of that? If you're the Patriots, you're getting beautiful fruit of all varieties, dropping nonstop all year round.
Yeah.
If you're the Browns, you're dropping Buckeyes. You're dropping poisonous nuts. And that's
Don't
it.
say that about
you
no
may
Buckeyes.
take Kevin
Stop
Stefanski out of this toxic soil and put him into another organization where there's fertile soil to grow. And he may blossom into a beautiful fruit tree that can be productive. But when the soil has people in the organization that would never be hired by any of the other 31 teams, you know who I'm talking about. Someone who's related to the owner, who is a powerful person in this organization, who would not have this job if not for his marital connection, would not have any job in the NFL. Yet he's the constant. He can't get fired. He stays on.
And that's the most dangerous part. That's the most terrifying part.
Because they're ultimately pulling the strings as to which seeds you put in the soil.
And you can't fire them.
Can't fire the owner. Can't fire the
We can try to run them out of town, which we may start here soon.
Listen, we're 5 years too late on that notion. We should have done that when they were 0-16.
When you talk about toxic soil, right? So let me be clear to everybody here. This is not the first organization that's had toxic soil.
Of course
right?
not.
So if you go back to the Bulls, they just did a 5-part series on the Bulls. If you went to Chicago, they'd say the whole thing was toxic.
They got Michael Jordan.
But they had the guy at the helm that navigated the toxicity. He did. Phil did. Phil did.
Now watch.
Phil did.
Now watch. Until they got Phil, what were they?
No. Hold on. Phil was with us as assistant coach.
I know, but what I'm saying is,
be clear how I started. So Doug Collins started to turn it around.
Did Reinsdorf, though, just stumble into that? Because the Michael Jordan thing, he stumbled into.
He stumbled into the Jordan until they brought in Krause that found all the other pieces.
Right.
That's how they got better.
Can we debunk something? Can we debunk something? I've been waiting patiently. I just want to debunk something.
Holla.
There's a talking point about how we fire people too closely. I've been giving this out to a lot of people, and I'll offer an answer in the chat. Or anybody on the panel, can you tell me one person the Cleveland Browns fired that went on to be some sort of genius Hall of Fame coach? Give me one.
Belichick.
That you got one.
No, that doesn't. What? The Browns didn't fire him technically.
Technically,
the Browns didn't even fire him. The Ravens fired him.
And I know you're talking about since the rebirth.
So I'm asking.
Well,
so who
what I
would
would say to your
too quick?
G, to your point, I agree. I actually don't think they fired anybody in the past too quick. I think Kevin Stefanski, who's done a bad job this year, and we could argue did a bad job last year, still show for me, and I could be wrong. I'll admit I could be wrong. For me, he showed enough year one, and his offense, again this year, outside of yesterday, has overachieved. No, you disagree that they've not overachieved?
Your head, no, yes,
Listen,
well, the Patriots too, not just outside yesterday.
Here's what I want to say. In your year one, he showed the same signs that he's been showing in this third year. He had a lot of leads. He let him slip. He wasn't giving people the ball. He couldn't get Odell Beckham Jr. the ball. They shipped him somewhere else. Another coach made him look good. You got Nick Chubb.
He won the Super Bowl.
He won the Super Bowl. You got Nick Chubb. You don't give him the ball. You got Kareem Hunt. You wanted to trade him.
Right.
Why? You got Amari Cooper. Hold on. Amari Cooper.
Okay, good.
Amari Cooper.
Why'd we keep Kareem Hunt, by the way?
Why did we keep? Look, my point is, he's showing all this promise. With great playmakers, and guess what? He ain't did nothing with none of them. And now you want to tell me he's going to be great with Deshaun Watson.
I didn't say that. I didn't say he's going to be great. I'm optimistic.
I'm saying
I'm optimistic that he. But I will say that the Browns have been a top 10 offense this year with a quarterback who's been a career backup.
Fool's gold.
The fact saying they don't get the ball to Nick Chubb is unfair. That's just,
what do you mean it's unfair? How many carries he had?
I'm so tired.
How many have 11? Did he get?
He's like third. He's like third in the league in carries. So he doesn't get the ball.
How many carries did he have yesterday when you got blown out?
That's why they can't give him the ball. They got blown out.
They were down
They scored
20,
at the end of the
30
first half. They scored at the start of the third quarter.
When they had receivers, they couldn't get them the ball. Can we keep going?
You know, maybe Kevin Stefanski's just an offensive coordinator.
That's it.
Maybe that's it.
Maybe
and that's
he's a
okay.
coordinator.
And we've seen a lot of guys, by the way, that have been terrific coordinators. And look at Callahan. Callahan was the head coach at the Raiders. I'll never forget. The Buccaneers, after they won the Super Bowl, I covered that team, were telling us in the locker room, this was stealing. They didn't change their calls at the line from the John Gruden offense, who was there the year before. So they came over to after the first series, they came back and Gruden was like, what are they saying at the line? So Gruden was telling him, he's like, okay, so that's what this means, that's what that means. So Callahan, who's the best position coach in the league, for my money.
By the way, was trash in Nebraska too.
Yes. It's okay that you're a great, and here's my thinking on Stefanski. The bigger the body of work gets, the more I'm getting towards that conclusion. I think he's trying to juggle 8 balls, and 5 of them are dropping. I think maybe he's just good at juggling 3. And so he wasn't willing to give up the offense. And I said, when he refused to hire an offensive coordinator, I said, it's going to cost him his job in the long run.
It's not even 3,
because
Jay.
Why was nobody saying that a week ago against the Bengals?
Yeah, I know they weren't full, but here's the problem. You can't just throw one dart and hit the middle and throw every other dart and miss the dart.
But here's the thing.
You
Whether
have
you
to be
like
consistent.
it or not,
First drive,
Jay,
again, he comes out and scores a touchdown. So he's good at that. After that, the offense evaporates.
Whether you like it or not, we've been through this before. Every young play caller in the league calls his plays. Every young offensive coach in the league calls plays. It's just the way it is. You may hate it. You may think it's stupid. That's the way it is.
I do hate it.
But that's the way it is. You may be right, but that's the way it is. Every young coach in the league calls their plays.
Jeff Saturday.
That don't look good either.
Congrats.
That don't look good either.
Well, one game proves nothing.
That's all we have.
They picked him
but he
off
didn't
the
call the
freaking
offensive
street.
plays.
The
He worried about coaching the team.
He was at rallies.
Listen.
He was eating big Bluefoods.
And if they lose their next 6 games, what are you going to say about that?
So,
come on,
then I won't bring that up because that would just
But the point is, guys, two things here.
I love the honesty.
Guys, 2 things here. Number one, we have honestly, every week all we do and everybody in this town does is talk about the coaching, which is certainly a factor. I think we're giving the players way too big a pass. But number 2, I think ultimately the Browns are better off. None of us know for sure what's the best thing for the Browns, right? None of us do. Jimmy has them starting to know.
I do.
But okay, maybe you do, G, but let me just make mine and then you tell me what you think is the best thing. I think the best thing is to give Kevin Stefanski next year, hire a defensive coordinator that is a veteran, that has experience as a head coach, to be the head coach of the defense, which we see in a lot of places with young offensive coaches, and give that the shot. If you got a better head coach, maybe you do. Maybe firing Stefanski and hiring another head coach will work, or maybe it'll just be the same flop that everyone else has been. But I think that's the better bet, is sticking with the head coach, getting a better defensive coordinator, getting a better special teams coach, and seeing what you got with Deshaun Watson. I know people don't want to hear that, but if you hire a new coach, you're doing the same thing, seeing what you got with that guy.
Let me tell you,
that's not any more of a guarantee.
When you're the CEO of a place, sometimes you got to make a tough call. It ain't about how nice you are as a person. We just look at your body of work. Your body of work sucks. It does, right? It leads me to feel like I have to explore other opportunities. And I'll go back to this. You name
so
one.
So who you want to
sport,
hire, Brad?
You go back
what do you want to do?
You go back to one sport that tells me that the head coach is not a fiery soul. Show me one that's winning.
I know, it's tough.
That's winning.
It's tough.
That's winning. And I don't care if I'm a women's basketball. Maryland head coach, she's a fiery soul. Dawn Staley, I saw her this weekend, a fiery soul. Yeah. They are the ones that are quiet and docile. You will get a few